'Cause I'm on top of the world, eh? I'm on top of the world, eh? Waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to smile, eh? The whole day for a while, eh? Take you with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world. I've tried.
Good morning, Northern High School. Today is Monday, September 12th, a day of remembrance for the tragic events that occurred on 9/11.
I'm Helen.
And I'm Bailey.
Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Word of the day, patriot, a person who vigorously supports their country and is prepared to defend it against enemies. Those who dedicate their lives in service to our country are patriots. For example, many patriots came together during the attacks of 9/11 to risk their lives in order to save strangers in need.
Math Fact Monday. On 9/11, 4 planes were used to carry out attacks on the United States of America. The attack began at the first plane hitting the World Trade Center at 8:46 a.m. By 9:59 a.m., both towers had collapsed. 2,996 people's lives were lost that day.
Now in today's news, attention all students. Students who do not have the student handbook acknowledgement form turned in by today will be serving lunch detention until it is turned in.
Computer login info. Students should not go to the counseling center for your computer or email login information. Your login is your first name dot last name, and your password is GCPS and your 4-digit lunch number. If you need help logging in, you may ask any of your current teachers for assistance in resetting your password if you lock yourself out of your account.
Relay for Life Planning Committee. The first student planning meeting is scheduled for today, September 12th, during enrichment. Essay contest. The Grantsville Lions Club is sponsoring an essay contest for students. This year, the essay focuses on the U.S. Constitution. The essay topic is, how is being a high school student today better than being a high school student 100 years ago? This essay should be on 8.5 by 11-inch paper, typed in double-spaced with a minimum of 300 words and a maximum of 500. A separate page including your name, address, and phone number should be included. Those interested in participating should forward their essay to the Grantsville Lions Club, P.O. Box 450, Grantsville, Maryland 21536. The deadline for entry is February 10th, 2017.
Literary announcements. Next week, Wednesday and Thursday, September 14th and 15th, interviews will be held for the Literary Magazine's officer slots. Please see Miss Roller in the library to pick up an interview slip to fill out prior to your meeting. She will be happy to explain any details to you as well.
Library announcements. Beginning on September 27th, the vault will be open until 4:30 p.m. Students who need assistance with homework projects or a place to use technology are welcome. If any student knows in advance that they would like to work on something, please stop by the library and let Ms. Roller know. Safely.
Photo request for yearbook. The yearbook staff is diligently working to tell the story of this year in a format that you'll love to keep. But we need help from you, the heroes of the story. We need interesting pictures starting with summer vacation. If you have any you'd like to share, please email them to Miss Fleming at april.fleming@garrettcountyschools.org, or better yet, download the Replay It app. Remember to include some details about the picture and identify everyone included.
Senior class officers will meet on Thursday, September 15th during enrichment. This is a very important meeting. Officers will meet in Miss Hawkins' classroom during enrichment. Thanks. All chorus members of Aladdin are asked to attend a rehearsal today during enrichment in room 204. If you have any questions, please see Miss Verts in room 204.
You when 9/11 happened?
I was homesick on the couch.
What do you do to remember 9/11?
I appreciate the people I love every day.
Where were you during 9/11?
I was working right here in the kitchen.
Where were you on 9/11 and what do you remember?
On 9/11, I was in Baltimore, Maryland at a meeting with approximately 350 other principals. They called us in and told us that the tower had been hit told us to go call our schools, come back in 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, we came back in. They sent us all back to our schools. It took an hour and a half for me to get out of Baltimore, trying to get back to my school to make sure my students were okay.
What will you do to remember 9/11?
I will wear red, white, and blue to remember it because I was too little to even remember it happening.
Where were you on 9/11 and what do you remember?
I was sitting here in this office. It was Mrs. Dowds and myself and Mrs. Martin. And I get a phone call from my mother. And my mother says, "Are you watching television?" And I said, "No, we don't have a television in the office." Because she had told me everything was on 9/11. So I actually ran over to my house and got a little television so we could watch what was going on.
When 9/11 happened.
I was in nursing school in a biology lab.
What do you do to remember 9/11?
I just stop and think about my friends and family.
What do you do to remember 9/11?
We used to go to Flight 93 and just look at the field and say a little prayer. That's about it.
I was here at work.
Where were you during 9/11?
I was teaching here.
How do you remember 9/11?
I just remember like what been told us everybody was just running around the house trying to figure out where everybody was and like where all the kids were, and like we all got gathered in the living room and like our parents just sat us down and just told us how much they loved us and stuff.
Where were you during 9/11?
I was teaching. I was teaching an elementary class. It was first period. I think it was a small class, maybe 15 students. It was first period. We just said the pledge and got started, and that's when we heard the news.
What do you do to remember 9/11?
Well, we go to my grandfather's memorial, and then we put flowers by his grave, and then we put a flag and we say, "In memory of 9/11."
Where were you whenever 9/11 happened?
It was a Tuesday morning, and I was teaching at Swan Meadow Elementary School when one of the student assistants came and asked me to come and see the TV report. And I saw the second plane hit the tower.
During 9/11, I was here at Northern High School, but unfortunately that plane that fell in Shanksville fell about a mile and a half from my house. In fact, it flew over my house, and I spent most of my day that day trying to get hold of my wife and my kids who were at home at the time. And I was just asked by some kids here what it was like when I went home. They had a 10-mile radius shut down around my house. I actually couldn't go home. I had to stay outside that 10-mile radius and find state police that knew who I was so that I wasn't lying, and they escorted me to my house. But that's where I was on 9/11.
Stop and pay class dues. Students owe $10 a year for class dues. If a student does not have their dues paid up to date, they cannot attend the prom, class trips, etc. All 4 years can be paid at one time, or you can pay $10 a year. Dues should be given to the student classes advisor. The class of 2020 can pay in the counseling center until advisors are selected.
Now in sports news. The JV football team lost to Mountain Ridge 34-0, and that's all we're going to say about that. On a positive note, both the varsity and JV volleyball teams defeated Southern. Varsity took the match 3-0. We aren't sure of the scores. And JV won 2-0 with scores of 25-15 and 25-11. We apologize for a lack of details, but way to go, ladies!
This evening, boys soccer heads to Trinity for a 5:30 tournament. Girls soccer is at home with the varsity at 6:30 game against Fort Hill, and JV football travels to Tucker County for a 7 p.m. game. Good luck. Today for lunch, we're having rib patty, mixed vegetables, pears, french fries, and milk. Tomorrow's lunch will be chef salad.
Woohoo! Today's weather will be mostly sunny with a high of 74. Today in history. On this day, on September 12, 2001, the day after the 9/11 attacks, at 10:53 a.m., President George W. Bush holds a cabinet meeting, saying that the attacks were more than acts of terror, they were acts of war. Bush later that day toured the Pentagon to oversee the rescue and recovery efforts.
And a happy birthday to Ryan Bone and Heather Durst.
Woo!
Quote of the day. We will remember every rescuer who died in honor. We will remember every family that lives in grief. We will remember. George W. Bush.
Have a Memorial Monday. And we would like to dedicate today's show to Miss Jane Avery. Miss Avery was an English and theater teacher for Garrett County Schools for 28 years and was the artistic director and founding member of Our Town Theater. She will be greatly missed.
I'm being followed by a moon shadow, leaping and hopping on a moon shadow.